What if I told you that one of the most famous stories in human history, a story that's shaped how we think about curiosity, women, and the origin of suffering, is built on a lie that's been repeated for over 500 years? I'm talking about Pandora's box. And after 20 years of researching ancient mythology, I can tell you with absolute certainty, almost everything you think you know about this story is wrong. Let's start with the version you know. The version they taught you in school, the version Disney referenced, the version that's become shorthand for curiosity killed the cat. Zeus creates Pandora, the first woman, as a gift to humanity. He gives her a mysterious box with one simple rule: don't open it. But Pandora, driven by feminine curiosity, because of course she is, can't resist. She opens the box, releasing all the evils into the world: disease, war, famine, death. Humanity's paradise is destroyed, and it's all her fault. The only thing left in the box: hope, a small consolation for the mess she's made. Except here's the thing, that story is wrong. Not just incomplete, actively, demonstrably wrong. And the real story? It's so much more disturbing than you can imagine. Let's start with the most obvious lie. There was no box. None. Zero. The original Greek word was pithos, and if you've ever seen ancient Greek pottery, you know exactly what this is. A pithos is a massive ceramic jar, sometimes taller than a person, used for storing grain, oil, or wine. Think less jewelry box, more industrial storage container. So how do we get box? Blame the Renaissance. When 16th century artists started painting Pandora, they had never seen a pithos. They were working from Latin translations that used the word pixis, which could mean box or jar. So they painted what they knew: small, ornate boxes. Beautiful, delicate, feminine. Perfect for the narrative they wanted to tell. But here's what's really messed up. This wasn't an innocent mistake. A massive storage jar suggests something entirely different than a delicate box. A pithos implies industrial-level consequences. It suggests that whatever was inside was meant to affect the entire world. This wasn't about a curious woman touching something she shouldn't. This was about releasing something that was always meant to be released. Which brings us to lie number 2. Pandora wasn't a rebel. She wasn't even making a choice. See, the version you know frames Pandora as disobedient. She had free will. She chose curiosity over obedience, and she doomed humanity. But that's not what the original Greek texts say. In Hesiod's version, our oldest source, Zeus creates Pandora specifically to punish humanity. Not as a gift, as punishment. And her opening the pithos? That wasn't a bug in Zeus's plan, it was a feature. Remember why Zeus was angry in the first place. Prometheus, the Titan, had stolen fire from the gods and given it to humans. This wasn't just about warmth and cooking. Fire represented technology, civilization, the ability to challenge divine authority. Zeus was furious that humans had been elevated beyond their intended place. So Zeus punishes Prometheus by chaining him to a rock where an eagle eats his liver every day for eternity. But that's not enough. Zeus also wants to punish humanity for accepting this stolen gift. Enter Pandora. Zeus orders the gods to create the perfect trap. Pandora is given beauty by Aphrodite, cunning by Hermes, and, this is crucial, she's given curiosity as a defining trait. Not as a flaw, as a feature. Zeus literally programs her to open the pithos. She's not disobeying orders. She's following her divine programming. Think about how sinister this is. Zeus creates a woman, programs her with irresistible curiosity, gives her a storage container full of horrible things, and then pretends to tell her not to open it. It's like creating a robot, programming it to push a red button, putting it in a room with a red button, and then blaming the robot when it pushes the button. But what was actually in that pithos? Because this is where the story gets really disturbing. The usual translation says evils, but the Greek word kaka is more complex. It includes hardships, illnesses, painful necessities, things that aren't necessarily evil but are definitely difficult. We're talking about childbirth pain, the need to work for food, old age, disease. Natural parts of human existence that make life challenging. But here's the key detail everyone misses. These hardships already existed. The golden age of humanity that supposedly ended with Pandora's box? It was artificial. Zeus had temporarily shielded humans from the natural consequences of mortal existence. The Pythos didn't create these problems. It released them back into the world where they belonged. So Pandora didn't doom humanity. She ended humanity's artificial protection. Zeus was essentially saying, "You want to play with divine fire? Fine. But you're going to experience mortality the way mortals are supposed to experience it." And then there's hope. Everyone talks about hope being left in the box as this beautiful consolation prize. At least we have hope. But the ancient Greeks had a much more complicated relationship with hope than we do. To many Greek philosophers, hope was dangerous. False hope could lead people to make terrible decisions. Excessive hope could prevent people from accepting reality. Some scholars argue that hope remained in the Pythos not as a gift, but as another potential curse that Zeus decided humanity wasn't ready for yet. Others suggest hope remained because humans needed it to survive the hardships that had just been released, not as consolation, but as a survival tool. The only thing that makes mortal existence bearable. But here's the real villain of this story, and it's not Pandora, and it's not even Zeus. It's the 2,500 years of storytellers who took a complex myth about divine punishment and power dynamics and turned it into a simple story about how women can't be trusted with important things. Think about it. Every retelling emphasizes Pandora's curiosity as a feminine flaw. Every version makes her the one responsible for human suffering. Every adaptation focuses on her disobedience rather than Zeus's manipulation. We've turned a story about a powerful god's calculated revenge into a cautionary tale about why women shouldn't ask questions. Sound familiar? It should. It's the same pattern as Eve in the Garden of Eden. A woman is created, placed in a situation designed to make her fail, makes the choice she was designed to make, and then gets blamed for the consequences that were always going to happen. And we've been telling these stories for thousands of years, never questioning why the woman is always the one who ruins everything for humanity. But here's what gives me hope, the real kind, not the dangerous kind the Greeks worried about. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Once you understand how these stories have been twisted, you start questioning everything. So I want you to think, what other common knowledge stories are you accepting without question? What other myths have been simplified into victim-blaming narratives? Drop a comment below with other stories you think deserve a second look, because trust me, Pandora's box is just the beginning. The next time someone uses Pandora's box as a metaphor for unintended consequences, remember, there was no box, there were no unintended consequences, and Pandora was never in control of her choices. The real story isn't about the dangers of curiosity, it's about the dangers of blaming victims for the systems designed to destroy them. And if that doesn't make you want to question everything else you think you know about ancient mythology, I don't know what will. Hit that subscribe button, because we're just getting started on exposing the lies they've been telling us our entire lives.